Now I make voice sound. Very good. So, understanding alone brings an end to suffering. Why? Because understanding brings clarity, and understanding is knowledge. So, we all are seekers, and the seeker is fully aware. Seeker is Seeker is fully aware what seeker has to do. Understanding atom or a cell or a neuron, it is good to understand. I always love to study and know what is latest in physics and sciences, life sciences. But a seeker is single pointed, focused on what is my true nature. That needs to be clearly understood by the mind. So, this is very important. Now, know your real self. And we say, what about the self? You are studying physics, and then you interfere. And then I say, cell is also an atom. So, that will not work. So, the seeker has to be single pointed. And we already worked on different aspect: discernment, dispassion, one pointedness. So, what we have been studying? We have been studying that the mind covers the real self. And once we understand how the mind covers this real self, understanding is required. Huh? We had yesterday, the entire sky was clouded. So I have to understand, in order to find the sun, I have to understand how it is clouded. So mind is covering the real self. Once we understand how, why, we are done. So for a couple of sessions, we have understood that there are two flows of the mind, like the river has a two flow. We understood the three diseases of the mind: attachment, that means emotional dependence. Second is sorrow, that causes the sorrow and the suffering. And the third is it leads to delusion. We live in delusion. That is why I claim that I am in stress, I am suffering, I have an anxiety, I have duality, I have a conflict. And we expanded these three diseases. We means, the Krishna, the founder, the originator, he says these three diseases can be extended into 8 factors. Objects of the world outside, then sense organ perceives them backed by the mind, and then we have an attachment and detachment, and that causes the desire fulfilled, still a problem, and desire not fulfilled, still it is a problem. So that causes the delusion, loss of memory, loss of intelligence. Now, to summarize everything, it means that I have created, my mind has created a universe with these 8 factors, and I live into that world. That is why I am suffering. I don't see the real world as it is. So when we say delusion or illusion, it does not mean this world is delusion. The universe I created in my mind is a problem. Is a problem. Are you getting it? Oh, my mouse has fallen. So you see that? So it is happening in my mind. One example, crush at first sight. But crush at first sight, who told you to get crushed at first sight? Sam is love. Who told you? Love at first sight. Such an extraordinary person you are. So you are crushed. You have a crush at first sight. So you will definitely be crushed. How? Because of these 8 factors. So it means crush at first sight means I have started building a world with these 8 factors, and I continue to live into that world. It is definitely going to create problems. Self-created universe is the delusion. You know, this 5 element space. The universe is so beautiful, but we see, to the photochromatic. We color. I don't remember the exact word. We color these glasses, so that the moment we go outside, it changes the color. The moment we wake up, we color our mind. Problem comes. How we color? My honey, crush at first sight. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have a reaction and anxiety. Do you remember? It is something like log of wood is holding you. I told this story to one rose colored. Yes. First rose colored, then it becomes rosy, and then the same problem. Then this Rosie is holding me at all the time. Kate has written rose colors. So you see that needs to be understood, that when I wake up in the morning, do I live from moment to moment consciously? So, can you remove that photochromatic, that colored glass, and see the world as it is? This is what we have understood in the last few sessions. So keep that clarity. So once I become clear, I meet you, and the mind is ready to color. Through my understanding, I remove that color. That is what we remove, the illusion and delusion. Remember, this universe is not a delusion. I created an illusion in my mind. So let us move little further. So, like, do you remember that the river has 2 flows? Ida, hurricane, I told you. Same thing, the mind has a flow of thoughts, the river is a flow of water. Comparison gives you clarity and understanding. So then we say this mind has a 2 flows. One flow, our master named as a Shreyas. The other flow, the master named it as Preyas. Shreyas means what is right and good, And prayas means what I like, what is pleasant to me means prayas creates a universe which is not true, which is full of delusion, which is full of 8 factors. And Shreyas helps me to perceive this universe as it is. Like a child, spontaneity, consciousness is blossoming. So now next question comes from where these two flow come. Do you remember? I told you it comes from a glacier. A comparison. Glacier means past impression accumulated from the previous and the current birth. Deep-rooted seed impressions are known as vasana. And whatever we are, you see that. Let me give you another example that you are attending the session. You're not attending the session that I'm giving a lesson, but your vasana, your impressions in the mind that was present, which has led and inspired you to attend the session. I don't come into the picture. Do you see that? So that comes from the glacier. So our master says it is because you did something good in the previous birth. That we will take up later on. So that is the first thing, the glacier. And the second is the rainwater. I said current and the daily life, the way I'm living with my thought, speech, action, what I want to do, where I'm going, and I'm getting influenced by the society, culture, parents. So that current impressions, they also contain both Shreyas and Prayas. Glacier also contains both Shreyas and Prayas. So we are answering the question from where? Did you ever ask that why you are attending the session? Why? Who told you? So it is because of the previous sanskaras, previous impressions. And third is that you get stressed. There is a sudden incident in your life or event in your life that pulled you. No, let me find out. I have to bring an end to the suffering. Do you see? So clarity, you should have a clarity. You don't need to go into mysticism. You need not to follow any cult. You need not to follow any dogma. You need not to follow anything. That understanding is required. So, the medical science also says we have a cognitive ability, cognition. You heard the word? Cognition, recognition. Huh? I'm not going into the medical science because American Psychological Association will sue me if I use the word CBT. CBT, they have developed a technique, cognitive behavior, they say therapy. Now recognize, let me remind you, 3 diseases, 8 factors, real world versus self-created world, real self versus false self. This is all about the cognitive ability. See that? If I do not understand clearly, no meditation will succeed. So the great difference between the Eastern wisdom is that we did not allow the mind to reach to a threshold to go to a doctor. Doctor means if you have a disease, if you have some symptoms, then only you go to the doctor. But what is happening inside me because of my self-created universe, that is definitely going to create problems, suffering, anxiety, duality, conflict. So our master says, hold on. Hold on. Log of wood is now holding you. Do you realize? Do you recognize? Become aware. Treat here and now. So let me remind you again that every human being has a higher level of self-awareness, and we have a free intellect. Now, when we say cognitive ability, it means my intellect is free. My mind may be addicted. The same intellect says, no, I want to get rid of it. It comes from same head. Do you see that? So that is what cognitive ability. We are talking of that. We are not talking of CBT or whatever BT or C. Clarity of understanding. See the in-depth understanding of Eastern wisdom. So that leads to another deeper understanding of what is Shreyas, what is Preyas. Do we live our life daily? We can definitely say, I like you, I love you, etc. But you have to check, you have to maintain awareness inside whether it is coming from a self-created universe or it is coming from the real. You are a human being, so I love you. I have a crush on you, that is why I love you. There is a difference. So one takes me to prayers, other takes me to Shreyas. Any activity in this world, any activity, any thought, any feeling, any expression that you make, you have to check whether it is coming from prayers, whether it is coming from Shreyas. Half the journey is done. You will never find that you are fully busy. You will find that you are always free. I can tell you. Those who have been telling me, no, I have been busy. I know why you have been busy. Why you have been busy. You have to remember this. When the mind is moving to prayers, we have understood prayers. You will be busy, you will be anxious, and if it continues, your sleep will be disturbed. You will have a reaction, you have an anxiety, and long list. Why? We are not using our cognitive ability. Why? We are not using our intellect. Why? We are not using our understanding. So Shreyas means simply intellect, knowledge, understanding, and clarity. Prayas means behavior, attitude, impulsive instinct, weakness, mental dependence. It's a mental COVID. The virus cannot go. You know that. That's why I say mental COVID. Until awakening takes place. It will be minimized, it will go in the background, but that is why Master says we have to reach to the ultimate real. That is why I use the word mental COVID. Follow intellect. Intellect is knowledge. Knowledge is understanding. But I told you before that, okay, let me understand what your masters have been saying. So I say real self, and then your mind enters into the neurosciences. It says neuroplasticity. It is good. It is good. But what I'm doing, am I searching my real self or I'm searching the neurons? So that is why Master says we need a clarity, single pointedness. When the mind jumps here and there, we bring it back. Why? So that we can filter Shreyas and the prayers together. So, what is happening now? Again, I'm repeating for the sake of understanding that this mind has to flow. They are always present in the mind. That you can say it is a blessing in disguise. It is always present. So, what we do, we minimize the flow of the prayers in my mind through understanding to get rid of the self created universe. When, when, where, in all conditions, with whom, with everyone, including your honey, including friends, including foes, including different conditions, adverse or good situations in life. Do you see that? That is why we say the mindfulness. Huh? Mindfulness. So now go a little deeper that first recognize the importance of becoming a seeker. So I'm using 4R: recognize, receive, retain, realize. Recognize. Cognition, recognition, cognitive ability. So with that cognition, I'm recognizing Shreyas and the prayers movement. The moment any prayers movement is there through the intellect, through the understanding, drop it. Drop it. Do you still remember the story of a monkey who was sitting on a tree and the gardener, the rancher, was picking up the bananas and putting into the basket? Do you remember? And then he narrowed down the basket because every time the monkey jumps onto that basket and picked up the banana and jumped onto the tree. So he narrowed down the mouth of the basket. Monkey put a hand into the basket, picked up 5 bananas. Area of the hands became bigger. He was not able to bring his hands out, and the gardener thrashed him. Nature thrashes us. Nature always thrashes if you live in self-created universe. So what it means? What it means? I have a stress, I'm responsible. No one else is responsible. I'm into anxiety, I'm responsible for it. I have a pain, I'm responsible for it. Who said that you remain fully busy? You are responsible. Once I recognize that, then the second step starts to receive. But in receiving this knowledge and this understanding, our mind, our intellect, and the memory should be present. Okay, just half an hour he gives a talk, and after that half an hour practice, and after an hour I enter into my self-created world. And then we come back and blame the teacher. Oh, this is not working. You are responsible. Receive. To receive means you are listening from the mind, you keep that knowledge in the intellect, and the memory holds on to that knowledge. When the memory holds on to that knowledge, then the third step comes. Where is that? Retain. Now you retain that knowledge. By repeat practice, you wake up in the morning and mind says it's a bad morning. But now you have retained the knowledge. You convert that bad morning into a good morning next second. Why? Because you know the truth. That sun rises at the same time. Sun gave me the same light as it gave light to everyone in this world. So what is bad about it? So this bad comes from the prayers. That is what is the meaning of retention, retaining that knowledge. So when you retain, and then you can't, because you have already contemplated, reflected on it, you remove the doubt. There is no question of bad morning. Every morning is good. It's not a bad morning because sun rose from the west. It is still rising from the east. Now apply the same. Honey is still the same. Why am I upset? Honey is the same. No. You have changed a lot. Retain. Retention of the knowledge, followed by we do the practice. But the time comes, the last point before we start doing the practice, the time comes, then the practice leaves you. Why the practice leaves you? You need not to do the practice. But why you don't need to do the practice? You are already at your home. Why you need to do the practice? You don't need to do the practice. Practice is left. Why practice is left? Mind is overwhelmed with the shreyas. The self-created universe has gone. Self-created universe is gone. You don't need to take the pills when the problem is over. You don't go to the doctor. That results in awakening. That results in meditative state. When? All the time. Where? In all conditions. With whom? With everyone. Let us start our practice today.